Yo, what is good, everybody? It's your boy Golden Falls, Golden What If, whatever you want to call me, and I'm back. I'm back with part 4 of What If Deku Had a Clone Quirk. And I don't really got that much to say here. As always, though, I hope y'all enjoy, and I hope y'all leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. All that stuff helps. It always does. Just make sure you show some love to the video, and yeah, that's really about it. And I hope y'all enjoy this, or you've been enjoying this series, and I hope y'all enjoy this video. And that's about it. Yeah, let's just get right into the what if. Let's get it. Izuku Midoriya and Melissa Shields stand right in front of the hero killer. The hero killer kind of mocks them, saying that there is no beating him in this scenario, and that all of these heroes, well, they're kind of all fake. There's very few that are truly worthy of the title of hero, and he'll prove that to be 100% true right here. He hates to have to end the career of a hero before it even started, aka, well, end the life of the students there, but, well, it's kind of the issue of Tenya Ida. Tenya Ida brought this upon himself, and frankly, the hero killer feels that maybe all of them are like Tenya. With that said, though, the hero killer would begin blitzing forward, charging at Izuku and charging to have a fight. Izuku would immediately clone himself. Izuku knows that there's some sort of reason why Tenya was easily defeated by the hero killer. So keeping his distance will definitely become of the benefit of both Melissa and himself. Using his clones, he should be able to utilize that distance relatively well. He uses his energetic clone or his speed clone as much as possible, because at the end of the day, yes, he has a strength clone, but if he utilizes this speed clone, it seems that Stain will not be able to keep up. Of course, though, he would add his strength clone here and there, where the strength clone can hopefully do some substantial damage. But with Melissa also being there to help, it makes this fight far easier than it would have been with just Izuku. He makes it so that, well, him and Melissa have insane synergy. So the synergy would be extremely beneficial against Stain himself. But eventually, he would be able to cut one of Izuku's clones, and he would lick the blood of Izuku's clone. Izuku would be confused, thinking immediately, though, that that must be some sort of quirk. Maybe some reason why, or there must be some reason why he just did that. But when he does it, Stain looks confused, because Izuku's clone can still move. Izuku is also confused, looking at Stain oddly, because he didn't think the one that would be known as the hero killer would, well, kind of be at a loss for words at a sudden occurrence. Izuku and Melissa take advantage of this, though, allowing both of them to get the upper hand, and frankly, the upper hand wouldn't be too far from just normal, because Melissa has a really high output of One For All, and on top of that, Izuku has pretty darn good control over his clones, being that his speed clone is going to be far faster than Stain himself. So when they're able to capture Stain, wrap him up in rope, and Izuku and his strength clone makes sure that he stays completely still. After a little bit would pass, reinforcements would arrive, and frankly would arrive a lot sooner than normal. And the reason for this was because Izuku and Melissa actually helped out with evacuation before all this even occurred. So it actually helped out in the overall grand scheme of things. So it allowed Endeavor and Gran Torino to arrive relatively quickly. So when they do arrive, the idea that, well, you know, Izuku and Melissa can't necessarily take credit for what occurred, because of the fact that they're still not full-fledged heroes, and they don't even have a provisional hero license. And Melissa, yeah, she's going to be getting it far sooner than Izuku will, but she still hasn't gotten it. So that is definitely something that they need to get around. Endeavor offers the fact that he'll just take credit for it, in which Izuku kind of sits uneasy about, but he still just, deals with it at the end of the day, because he knows Endeavor is not the best of people in the overall grand scheme of things. Eventually, though, he would see Todoroki arrive, which would make Izuku slightly happy, seeing that he not necessarily settled his annoyance with his father or his hatred, but at least he's utilizing the number 2 hero's, arsenal and knowledge to his own advantage. Izuku believes that Todoroki should learn as much as possible and gain strength as much as possible, especially after seeing what occurred and what happened. There is some time that is spent, outside of school. Of course, Izuku and Melissa are slightly in trouble for what they did, but they saw what they needed to do and they see fit in terms of that regard. Izuku and Melissa would head back to school and go their separate ways once again, but Melissa would give Izuku a couple gifts based on some support items she's been working on. Just stuff that would allow him to more or less utilize the quirks that he currently has, and also utilize this new quirk that has arrived. Both Melissa and Izuku have been working extremely hard for a while now, actually, and the fact that he's had such progression has to be contributed to both All Might and Melissa to a large extent. Well, we'll have to see how big that progression is, especially in the next upcoming event. It's not necessarily the most insane thing, but the next event is the final exam. The final exam would show off exactly what they've learned and how far they have come. Aizawa explains that they will be going to a forest training camp afterwards, but the only way they'll be allowed to go and leave is if they pass the final exam, both the written and the practical. The written portion of the exam for Izuku won't be necessarily too difficult. He'll have to study a decent amount, but when you have someone like Melissa and many other people that are extremely intelligent to help out and help study, it's not too difficult in the grand scheme of things. So he's able to easily pass that exam, but the practical is where things get a little bit difficult, for the fact that the opponent that he's going against, and maybe even worse, the partner he'll be with, is going to make things a good bit challenging. When they all arrive at the gym and they get ready for that said final practical exam, well, let's just say Izuku and Bakugo are the last to be picked, and they'll be going against the one and only All Might. All Might arrives and does his signature "I am here," and he signals that he will be their opponent. Two people that have not really gotten along at all by any means, and you can tell that Bakugo is extremely jealous of Izuku, but nonetheless, they're going to have to team up and fight together. Of course, though, Bakugo does not like this idea at all, and all the planning that Izuku wants to do and thinks he should do basically all goes down the drain. And it's all because of Bakugo. Bakugo still hasn't had a leap of character development, and he still does not care for Izuku at all. He believes that he can beat All Might on his own, and that's how he needs to do it, and that's how he wants to do it, and that's how he will do it. He will beat All Might on his own. He doesn't need the help of this idiot. He doesn't need help from this wannabe. So-called, oh yeah, he's trained with All Might, recommended by him. Yeah, sure. All Might really took a liking to him instead of Bakugo. That's how he feels about it, and that's why he doesn't want to listen to this damn nerd. They would wait until it's their turn, and when it is their turn to face down All Might, the restrictions that All Might have seem to be kind of non-existent. What's the point of putting weights on when they're so minuscule for someone like All Might? It literally doesn't matter. The gates would swing open, and Bakugo would shove Izuku to the side and charge forward toward All Might. Izuku would light up his eyes a yellow to catch up to Bakugo and begins to sprint extremely fast. Utilizing his quirk in this way, like I said before, does basically get rid of a lot of stamina. But if he uses it properly and uses it conservatively, then he'll be just fine. He races off with Bakugo and eventually arriving at All Might as a shockwave and a blast of wind gets sent toward them. They're able to dodge it relatively easily though, and Izuku continues to close the distance toward All Might. His eyes begin to flicker, and as his speed slows down, his body momentum continues as his eyes turn red, landing one single punch with super strength and at the momentum of super speed straight to the stomach of All Might. The punch itself sends All Might backwards about 20 meters. Bakugo would follow up with a strong blast to the face, but then turns to Izuku, shooting a blast toward him, launching him toward a building. Bakugo said he wanted to do this on his own, and that's what he's going to do. He continues to try and blast All Might over and over and over again. But Bakugo doesn't realize that All Might actually is feeling a little bit of the effects of Izuku's punch. That punch to the stomach hurt like hell. With the momentum and the super strength, and frankly, the combination of the two, Izuku made one hell of a combination, one hell of a combo. And this did drain a good bit of his stamina, but he's still able to make a clone or two, making a super strength and a super speed clone to hopefully go help Bakugo out right now. They go sprinting over there, and the super strength clone gets picked up by the super speed clone, and they begin to close that distance. When they arrive, they begin to try and fight against All Might with Bakugo, but Bakugo refuses this, blasting them away as well. Izuku makes them all disappear, thinking that it's just a waste of stamina if Bakugo continues to do that. He struggles to his feet as he walks over toward All Might and Bakugo, and he feels that Bakugo just won't listen. He won't listen at all. What is he supposed to do? Izuku shakes his head and frustratingly grabs Bakugo and grabs him quickly, grabbing him by the arm. Bakugo gets pissed and blasts Izuku in the side of the face, leaving a partial burn on his cheek, in which Izuku gets frustrated as he punches Bakugo in the back of the head so hard that he gets knocked out. Izuku's eyes flash yellow once again, but this time out of just pure anger. The electricity on his body turns red, and he dashes out faster than anybody could even see, and they cross the quote-unquote escape line, both of them escaping. And frankly, this would be the best idea to go about. Aizawa would walk up and ask if Bakugo's okay, and Izuku shakes his head yes, that he is. He's just fine. But he had to do that. There was no other way around it. He was just going to sabotage them and sabotage themselves. He had to eliminate a threat, ironically enough. Aizawa nods and says that was a good course of action. That's what needed to be done, at least right now. Aizawa says he'll talk to Bakugo and he'll handle whatever needs to be handled, but there will be some punishment on Bakugo's regard. After some time would pass, Aizawa would explain to the class that everyone's going to the forest training camp no matter what. But if you did not pass the final exam, then you will actually have to take extra courses or extra classes over there. The next day, they would all head off to the forest training camp, and Izuku would be looking forward to trying to utilize his quirk in new and brand new ways. And when they arrive at a near cliffside, let's just say a quirk that he hasn't used much so far basically kind of cues him into what they're about to do. A clone of himself would appear, and with purple eyes, he would look very gloomy and sad and would begin to be very anxious at the same time. And Izuku can't really wrap his head around what version of him it is. I mean, I guess kind of him being anxious and sad are relatively similar, but he seems more anxious than anything. Maybe anxiety Izuku? He's not so sure. But it seems like it's trying to warn him of something, and then it disappears. Izuku believes that utilizing this version of himself will practically be useless because, well, he has anxiety, and it will just disappear every time something really, really big would conflict. And Izuku doesn't know how to get it to stay anyways, so not much they can do. Aizawa would slightly chuckle at the fact that version of Izuku appeared, and Izuku just looks at him and shakes his head, knowing what's to come. Yes, they would meet the Wild Pussycats, and, Well, Izuku would nerd out for a second, but they would get all thrown off that mountain so fast that their head would spin. So when they land on the ground, they have to fight through a ton of these monsters, these creatures, these mountainous creatures, whatever they are, the rock-made, earth-made creatures, and they have to fight all through them. And Izuku does make it a far bit easier because it's like you have multiple people on your side, about 3 of them. But other than that, it still takes them a good amount of time to arrive at the forest training camp. And when they do, they don't really got time to do anything else. That was kind of like their training for the day. Aizawa would explain that, and they would eat, get ready, go to sleep, stuff like that. And the next day is when the real training would begin. Aizawa would explain to all of them exactly what they need to do, and every single one of them needs to work on their quirk. He tells them that their quirk progression has been quite halted. They haven't really worked on the physical aspects of it, and obviously Izuku believes that to be very true as well. He's worked on that on his own, but it's still extremely difficult to do a couple things. And making more clones, including duplicates of ones with the quirks that he can already control, is something Aizawa needs him to work on. I mean, that's a lot of benefit. There's going to be a lot of benefit. And Izuku has thought of this before, but it actually is very strenuous on his body. It's for the fact that he's basically duplicating the same exact thing twice. He's never done that. He's only done similar. And in a way, doing different is actually better for him. Doing a full replica and an exact clone, very similar to replicating it within his own body, is extremely hard and extremely straining on his body. So that's why he hasn't really done it much, but if he does get used to it and he continues to get used to it, it could see insane benefits. And Izuku knows that. Izuku really does, and Aizawa seems to believe that to be so as well. After a couple days of training though, something would happen. Something would occur. Something that would set the world, or the country of Japan, on fire. And that's the kidnapping of Katsuki Bakugo. Katsuki Bakugo, let's just say, didn't have the best attitude after Izuku forfeited the UA Sports Festival. He wanted to fight him, to prove that he was the best, to prove that he was so much better than Izuku. So when that is shown on live television, some villains believe that there's susceptible kids, at least there's a susceptible kid right in front of them. Izuku didn't know this would occur, but the anxious and anxiety-filled version of himself would give him a bit of a heads up. Giving that heads up to the League of Villains invading, it did help, and it does help. But at the same time, Izuku is in a bit of an odd situation. He sends out clones to help protect everyone. Clones to even save Kota, who was going to be killed by Muscular. But luckily enough, able to save him, but not defeat Muscular at that. But Muscular would be defeated by heroes eventually, and probably by the help of Izuku on top of that. But still, after all that is done, there was no protecting Bakugo long enough, and Bakugo was taken by the League of Villains. Now that is something terrifying, because is Bakugo going to go to the side of the villains? After the things he's seen, after the things he's gone through, would Bakugo dare betray the heroes that have been training him and have been treating him like a future hero to come? Well, you're gonna have to find out what Bakugo's choice is in the next episode, or the next part, when the League of Villains tries to entice Bakugo to join them on their escapade of conquering Japan. And that is a wrap for this part. And if you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, make sure to leave a sub, make sure to leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. And I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.